Welcome back to another edition of the Grown Men Podcast. I am your host, BAN, and welcome back to the show. Well, as always, we got a lot of interesting stories to talk about, a lot of things that came up going on right now. And joining me, of course, my brother, Mark. Mark, it's good to have you back here on the Grown Men Podcast. Brand new format. You're doing things a little bit different. How you feeling?
Doing okay. It's always good to be back. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, oh yeah, no doubt about that. Well, Mark, as we're in the holiday season, Juneteenth, going on, the big celebration the whole weekend, the Obama Presidential Center being opened up and everything like that. A lot of things going down. There were a lot of big celebrities in town for that and a lot of distinguished people. And, there was some words spoken, a lot of different things that was going on. What did you think about the whole ceremony as a whole?
I mean, I thought it's a beautiful thing, and yes, a lot of people came and showed up for President Barack Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama, and it's because these people are like respected by the masses. I mean, if you whether you was a fan of the president or whatever, you ain't like some of his policies or you liked all. I mean, whatever the case was. I mean, they pretty much set a high standard when it comes to first families. What it means to be presidential. Like they pretty much took the role very seriously. Like I say, you can have your criticisms about them. You can feel however you want to feel about them, but I mean, I believe a good amount. I don't want to say the majority of America or Americans, whatever, but like a good amount, I would say. Like I mean, they are like universally, recognized and beloved, and it's not just being like the first black president or the first black family in the White House. I mean, that's a big part of it, but again, the way they carried it, I mean, you never heard any scandals. I mean, there's no, what I'm saying, mistresses or, whatever. I mean, it's just they carried themselves in a way that ideal Americans should carry themselves.
Yeah, to me, what I got from it, Mark, is that it's a stark contrast in between what the Obamas were and what the Trump family is. And a lot of different people spoke on that, right? And they were saying, like, look, some people were just saying, look, here's the Trumps. None of them like each other. They just waiting for the others to kill over. And you got the Obamas. They looking so regal. They're looking so presidential. And that gets under a lot of people's skin, especially a lot of white people's skin, because they look at it like, how dare he, right? It's like, how dare he be intelligent? How dare he be masculine? All of these things that they expect themselves to be, but they are not in the moment. And when you can get all of the remaining presidents that are still alive to come to this thing, I mean, you had Bushes were there, the Clintons were there, you know what I mean? So, and the Bidens were there. So you had those presidential links. And Felon 47 can't stand it. He just can't stand it. He can't see within himself. That's why he wants to sign things on Juneteenth and all of these other things, because of his jealousies. And he keeps knocking Obama online and everything like that. It's just so inconsequential to the things that are really going on. And everyone knows this who looks at it through a scope. The man is jealous of the man. It's plain and simple. There is no other way around it. There is no way. This man is just jealous. But what do you say about it?
Well, for the ones that subscribe to whiteness, I mean, then yes, I mean, you're coming up on 250-year anniversary history of when the country was so-called founded. I mean, well, at least from when it was first known as United States, or the like Americas, as they named it. I mean, we know that the land has always existed, long before Columbus or any European ever set foot on the grounds here. And you know coincidentally, there were, like, African people here too, in these regions in the Americas and all that. For all those ones, those like Europeans who consider themselves white and subscribe to whiteness and all of that stuff, I mean, then yes, because they never, like, looked at us, black people, as, human beings. We're subhuman, we were property. So with all that said, I mean, of
Right.
course, I mean, how dare, President Obama, like, be, well spoken and educated and, funny. And I mean, all the things that he is, like, how dare he do that? I mean, it's like, because, I mean, these are like, these are leftovers, people who are still back in that time, and there's a lot of them out there. And I mean, and as far as, like, what I'm saying, the contrast to the Trump family, and Trump does what Trump do because he's a petty, weak individual. Like, he has no strength. That's why I like really especially enjoyed Mrs. Obama's speech and the praise that she gave to her husband, and because it was well deserved. I mean, they came at him all kind of ways, from calling him the food stamp president, put his picture on the food stamp, and all kind of things. I mean, like calling him all kind of names and getting in his face and all that. And like he never once overreacted. I mean, you never seen him do any of the things that the current president is doing, Felon 47. And that's what I think I mentioned that to you before. I mean, like, Felon 47, he is everything that they expected a black man to be, the first black president to be.
Right.
He's a guy who,
Right.
who loves gold, who dresses poorly, who's loud, who's like egotistical, short tempered. I mean, Donald Trump is very ghetto. If you think, I mean, the way he talks, I mean, what kind of person talks the way he talks? It makes no sense. Like he don't know a lot of
Right.
words. Like he's not smart. He used words like, bigly, and things that don't make any sense. And he lies all the time. I
Right.
mean, he's a professional liar. I
Right.
mean, that's what he does, and he grips all the time. He's trying to sell people all kind of items, whether it's socks or sneakers or watches or Bibles. I mean, he has no limit to his grift. He's always, trying to get the bag. He's always chasing coins. He's doing all of the things that they assume that, like, most, if not all, black people do. If they're not doing basketball or singing and dancing, I mean, they're doing some kind of criminal activity. I mean, Donald Trump, Felon 47, is a professional criminal. So they expected, everything that he did and is currently doing. I mean, that the first black president would have done that. And if he would have done like a fraction of the things that, like, you know Trump would have done, I mean, he probably would have been murdered. They would have found a way to do a, like, legal hanging execution, and said it was for the good of the country.
Yeah, it's one of them situations, Mark, like you just said a minute ago, and I'm gonna speak on that. It's like you said, he's showing up at places where he's not welcome. Like when he went to the Knicks game, nobody wanted him there, right? Nobody wanted him there. And he was roundly booed, and then he was like, oh, the crowd was a little leftist. You think? They don't want you there. Nobody
I
wants you in
mean,
their home. And then recently, again, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say he just lives in a bubble, and I mean, like, he's surrounded by, like, yes man, so everybody, telling him that, like, the sun shines on him. That like, yeah, everybody love him when it's like anything but that. He has his like handlers that's gonna tell him all things he want to hear, and like, yeah, because the thing about like New York, that trip, because he's from New York. He considers himself New Yorker, but New Yorkers knew who he was, like, way, way back then, years ago. They knew what he was about when, with the whole Central Park 5 thing and stuff. They knew they never respected him. You had like celebrities, and you had the Don Kings and all those type of people who took pictures with him and all that kind of stuff because he was he was a rich guy, and that's what we did. We took pictures and all that kind of stuff, but like the real people already knew what he was about. So like, yeah, he's not welcome. But he wants to praise. Once again, contrast that to like Obama when he appears at NBA All-Star game or a soccer game. He's cheered and stuff. He's down with the players coming up to him, shaking hands, all that kind of stuff because he's a man of the community. He's with the people. The people recognize him. They don't know Felon 47. They don't recognize him. So why are you putting yourself in that position? No, considering he had way more pressing matters to be, tending with, which is still ongoing. And I'm talking about the whole Iran-Israel fiasco that's happening. That's still not settled.
Yes, we have to talk about that, Mark, because it's one of them situations where it is continuing to cost us money, us as taxpayers, for a war that didn't have to be. And now that we have lost this war, because like everybody is saying, this war is lost because there was no cause, there was no effect, and there was no solution to it.
No, it was it was a thing that we should never been in the first place. It's like, I'm not gonna sit here and go back and rehash the whole thing, but like, we it's just like one of those situations where it's like, I don't know, I'm not gonna use any example. It was stupid, it was dumb. With the whole Strait of Hormuz being closed up and all that, like now we're trying to negotiate to get something to be reopened that wasn't closed to begin with. It's like, you go in your house,
right,
and then you set your house on fire. And now, like, oh man, now you up here asking your neighbors and your friends, hey, can you help me put out this fire? Or you getting mad at them because they're not helping you put the fire out. Well, then why did you start the fire to begin with? It was no reason to be going over there. But again, Donald Trump is very arrogant. Bibi Netanyahu, he has an agenda, a Israel first agenda, a greater Israel agenda, which means that they want to control the Middle East, period. They want to be the true rulers of the land. They very small, little, tiny country of Israel that got like what, about 2 to 10 million people tops only in it, wants to control all of those brown people, that's all those surrounding brown nations. They want to have complete control and domination. And Felon 47 was the only sucker and the only president sucker enough to sit there and fall for the okie doke. Everybody else said, hell no, we're not doing that. That's stupid. No. Because they knew they knew the risks involved. Yeah, I was going to say they knew the risks involved. They knew it was going to be a financial devastation for the country.
Yeah, they knew it, Mark. And this is the thing that's the icing on the cake to me, because Netanyahu, I think what he wants to do, and he has said this publicly, some of those people he wants to eradicate. That's what it is. The Palestinians, he wants to get rid of them. And it because he feels like they shouldn't be on that land. That land is theirs. It was God-given. And see, that's where the issue is, because now, over here in America, these same MAGA people are saying, wait a minute, no, we're pushing back against that. We don't want that. Now we have to give them $300 billion. Where is that money going to come from? The taxpayers. for blowing up a place. And then you get JD Vance talking about, oh, he better watch himself. No, you saying you better watch himself. The president, Felon 47, has said he's going to throw you under the bus if this deal falls apart. So John David Vance, he's got a lot of issues, right? But the issue on the table right now is him taking the fall for that, because that's what Trump does. He doesn't take blame. He gives it on to somebody else.
Yeah. I mean, he's always passing the buck. I mean, yeah, for sure. And JD, who's trying to hope to be president. I mean, he's probably gonna be president someday real soon, to be honest, because this guy's in bad shape. I'm talking about Felon 47. He's in terrible shape. I mean, you seen him at the G7 conferences. He was struggling sitting down. Sitting down, he was struggling, and then he got lost, and he had to get redirected. I mean, he's yeah. I mean, he's definitely on death door. I mean, I would be shocked if we make it throughout the year, to be honest. But nevertheless, I mean, JD Vance is already an very unpopular person, not just amongst liberals or leftists or Democrats, but amongst Republicans. Republicans don't like JD Vance. A lot of people don't like JD Vance, but JD Vance is there because of Peter Thiel. That's Peter Thiel's boy. And Peter Thiel's a very far right. Peter Thiel is a far right wing ideologue who believes in all this weird stuff because he has so much money. And that's the thing with like a lot of these billionaires, they believe in this weird stuff, like this whole I'm gonna live forever type of thing. Like Peter Thiel actually believes that he can live forever. That what's eventually gonna happen is that he's gonna combine himself with the computers and all of this stuff and basically become some kind of android, like on some Futuramic type of stuff, maybe have his head in a jar, still controlling, the world. I mean, that's the whole thing. That's why him, Elon Musk, all those guys, the damn Amazon guy who likes to go out, send the rockets into space and all that kind of stuff, because they're trying to see if they could continue life form in like other planets, other galaxies, and all this weird, crazy, insane stuff. So what they're trying to do is buy control over the government. That's why JD Vance is in that position, because Trump would never pick him. JD Vance called Trump America's Hitler. They don't like each other at all. So yes, he put all the weight on him and be like, oh well, if this don't go right, it's on JD Vance. And the thing about it, that like his followers, his people will be sucker enough to believe it. And now you had JD Vance coming out strong against Israel this week, because he's been doing the whole media tour. He's been on The View. He sat down talking to Megyn Kelly. He talking to this person, that person, doing all that kind of stuff to do two things. He's trying to sell the war and sell himself as the next president, and trying to endear himself to like the many people of America, showing like, yeah, this ain't me, because he's trying to do a whole slick things, and JD is probably the one that's been doing all those leaks to the New York Times as well. But he's trying to make himself look presidential. He's trying to get himself over, but it's just not gonna work. And you got some stupid liberals that's like, what I'm saying, like going for the okie doke, like, oh man, listen to the way JD Vance is talking now. Oh, like, yeah, he's against Israel. Like, no, he's still all about Jewish power and control and all. I mean, well, JD Vance don't believe in nothing, and like he's a very unserious man. He believes in the bag, and he believes in power. And if he can have power and control, that's what he's all about. But yeah, he's saying all this stuff against Israel because he know that the majority of the country is against Israel, Republican and Democrat alike, independent alike.
Absolutely, Mark. You're 100% right. That's why you said you hit it right on the head. He went on The View. He's trying to talk to both sides to say, look, I'm not like this man. We don't have the same agenda. We don't have the same things in common. As you've seen, even when Felon 47 was standing up there talking the way he was talking, you had Marco Rubio, standing behind, and Marco Rubio had a look on his face, and I was dying laughing because he didn't believe nothing that came out of Trump's mouth at all whatsoever. And it was so blatant that he didn't believe what he was saying. I just thought it was crazy.
Yes, poor Rubio, because he's another person that's trying to be president. He's trying to, like, he wants to run. And like him and JD Vance, they got beef between each other too and stuff. They got rivalries and all that kind of thing. The whole thing is a mess. It's definitely a big S show. You know what I'm saying? It's messy, but in the meanwhile, like, the working class folks, those white domestic farmers out there, those, like, medical researchers, those nurses, the doctors, and all those people are suffering because of this, with the high prices of gas and energy and oil and everything else that is on the rise. Fertilizer is sky high. We are real close to not only having a recession, but you very well can see a collapse of the economy, because the problem is that we are running out of reserve oil, and you're not gonna have to worry about paying gas prices, because you're not gonna have any gas. Period. We're really close to that. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. Yeah, as I said, I'm not trying to be hyperbolic at all. That's just a reality.
Yeah, and not only that, Mark, it might be a food shortage, which is one of the most important things, because if farmers can't grow, we don't eat. I've said this several times here on the Grown Men Podcast. Without the farmers, we do not eat. They are a very important cog in us being able to live every day, because you need food to live. Water and food are two main essentials before you need anything else.
Yes. Yes, that's the thing. We, lose the ability to grow crop and to, like, it's a mess. And, like, most of us, or many of us, are, like, very, like, we're not self-reliant. Like, back, like, about 60, 70 years ago, when, like, a lot of people knew how to grow and process their own food and all that, and you had to hunt to, like, eat and all that kind of stuff. Like, we lost a lot of those basic skills, even in the South. Because of, like, the technology you have now, because of things like, DoorDash and everything else, microwaves, all the like, modern inventions to make our lives easier and all that kind of stuff. Every time we invent something new to make our life more comfortable, we end up losing important pieces that we need for, like, growth and survival. And so yeah, it's gonna get real ugly real soon. Like, hopefully, like I said, they can work something out with this Middle East problem. But this is a thing too that, like, a lot of people need to, want to push for and be aware of, to, like, stop being so oil dependency. We have to get away from the oil. And that means, like, yes, promoting more solar vehicles, electric vehicles, things like, more ways to travel, because you shouldn't have, like, a Strait of Hormuz just shut down the whole, like, 20% of the whole energy, like, throughout the whole world. That's ridiculous within itself. But we are dependent on these things, and, like, we have a government that's pushing this stuff because they get the big dollars from the big oil company. They get that oil money dollars on both sides of the aisle and stuff. And it's just beyond ridiculous. And another thing too, it's well past time we stop calling Israel our friends, our allies. What have they done for us lately?
Right. Exactly. And that's on, to me, that's both on the Democratic and Republican side, Mark, as we talk about it. Because once again, the Democrats never commit to saying we're going to abandon Israel. They never commit to that. And that's why they can't get those edge voters, like you always talk about, those marginal voters that will go Democratic if they had some kind of structure and some kind of backbone. But they don't stand up to Israel. That's what MAGA thought that Trump was going to do. but they fell for the okie doke. He had no intention of doing that. He had no intention.
Well, MAGA wanted that for like other kind of reasons, mostly racist reasons. I mean, we remember during like the first administration when you had the whole march in what was that, South Carolina, North Carolina, one of the Carolinas, when they was marching and stuff, talking about Jews will not replace us. Like these are hardcore racists. Those are Nick Fuentes types and your Tucker Carlson types that like a lot of people also get fooled by. They think, oh, Tucker, oh, look at him standing up for Palestinians. No, he don't care about those people. He don't care about any brown person. He don't care. I mean, he's the main one that was saying that like when the Mexicans come over here, like they make the country filthy and dirty and this and that. No, he's about whiteness. He's about white power and stuff. And he will sit there and like disguise himself as anything that you want to believe him to be to try to get himself over, because when he appears on different platforms, he speaks differently. But when he's on his own show in his own home base, the truth comes out loudly. So it's like, people get things twisted. A lot, also with Megyn Kelly and all that kind of stuff too. Them people, those MAGA people are just upset because they is all about white America first. And not about doing anything for Jewish people.
Right.
Those are your real anti-Semites. And if we sit there and say something against Israel, we're accused of being anti-Semite, which is BS. It's nonsense. Because you're talking about a country.
That's what they
right. That's only been around since like 1946 or so, something like that. No, not 1946. It's 56 or whatever. I mean, when they did the same thing that the like Europeans did when they came over to the Americas, like took over land that was already occupied by other people, and then like, okay, well, this is our land now. I mean, so when you criticize Israel or Bibi Netanyahu, the killer, I mean, that's against that government, that state. We're not talking about those people because we don't know those people. But when it comes to those like hardcore MAGA people, they talk about them people. They talk about the Jews and all that. When you got Mike Huckabee, that's the ambassador to Israel. He truly believed that Jesus Christ is going to come back soon, like very soon. Not like, it's going to happen. And no, he think that Jesus may come back, anytime between next week and 3 months from now. He believes that wholeheartedly. And, he believes that he believes that the Jews going to have to make a choice, either lay down or either get down or lay down, meaning like, abandon your Judaism and become full-blown Christians, or face the wrath of God and just die and burn in like no eternity hell, basically. He believes that.
Well, you heard
Bibi Netanyahu, he go along with it and stuff because, again, greater Israel theory. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just going to say, you heard what the lieutenant governor said down there about Tallarico. He said Tallarico's going to hell because he's a vegan, or he's this and he's that. And it's the stupidest argument ever in the history, because these people are so-called Christians when they're anything but Christ-like. They don't have any values that Christ would have. I don't see any of that in any of these people. It is just ridiculous to me.
Hey, but that's the playbook, though. I mean, and that's all they need to get themselves over with their people. I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's unfortunate that we live in a society still that we vote out of fear and off of vibes and out of popularity. Somebody make us laugh. I mean, that's why you get a Donald Trump. That's why you get a Ronald Reagan. I mean, you get these like entertainers that have no business near any kind of political power because they don't know anything about real life. Like I said, say what you want about President Obama. He came from nothing. Like, he came, like, he actually, like, legitimately struggled. I mean, his story. His mom died of cancer, and his mom was a single mom. And he had his grandparents and stuff like that, but both of them was working class folks. Those wasn't rich grandma. Those wasn't it damn sure wasn't no situation like Different Strokes where like a rich white man came and like, got a black kid from the hood and put him in the penthouse. Those people were struggling. Those was common folks. So he he like understands life and life challenges better. Donald Trump can never understand that because he never understood it. He never was there. Like he was he was a millionaire, when he was born. He always had money.
Right.
I mean, simple as that.
Right.
And so I'm sorry, I don't have a problem with my camera at first. But no, I mean, it's just whole thing is that we have too many people that's like, I'm sorry for like a lack of a better word, just dumb because you're voting off of vibes once again and fear and stuff like that. Oh, I don't like trans people, and they keep on running the same dumb playbook. Oh, the Democrats are for trans, and they're gonna make your son cut his pee-pee off, cut his penis off, and they believe in open borders and all that kind of stuff. When once again, going back to Barack Obama, he deported more people than Trump did. Going back to Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe, he deported more people than Trump. I mean, it's like you gotta go with facts, and these people don't do facts anymore. They call it fake. They're gonna call it whatever and stuff. I mean, you listen to them all the time. Whoever that's like, what I'm saying, sticking up for MAGA, whether it's a Scott Jennings or that clown on Fox News. I mean, there's so many of them. You can talk about Hannity. You can go down the list, Jesse Waters. But I was thinking of like the other guy and stuff with the hair. Yeah. I mean, these are all liars. They're paid liars because they believe in doing for themselves. But for like the common folks, the regular working folk, these white folks, these broke white folks and stuff, I mean, they sit there and let their stupid fears override their better judgment all the time. Because you think about these red states and all this stuff, they've been poor and broke for years. They've been struggling and broke for years upon years upon years, and they always find somebody to blame. You want to blame the immigrants. You want to blame trans. You want to blame black people. You want to blame, but at the end of the day, you vote for these people that do nothing for you, but just sit there and gas it up. Like, why are we even still talking about trans people? Why are we still talking about immigrants? Because Trump been in office this long. I mean, didn't he close the borders and do all that stuff? So how is it still a problem? It's just a bunch of lies and bull. I mean, because they control all three houses, all three branches of the government: the House, the Senate, and the White House, and they have the Supreme Court. So how are you still talking about, come on, man. But again, for those folks out there in Texas, that's the type of thing that plays because they want a manly man to be their senator. They want somebody that eats beef and lots of, steak and all that kind of stuff. And, they respect a man that to like die of like colon cancer and then somebody to be a vegetarian, which I don't believe Tallarico is. I mean, I don't know. Quite frankly, I don't want to know. I don't care.
I think he is either.
Why is that an issue to become citizen?
To your point, the fact that he had to even address this is what kills me. I mean, that's how stupid this was in my eyes.
Yes, it's very dumb, and people do that stuff. The same thing with like Platten up there in Maine and stuff. You're worrying about him sexting and like, oh, I can't believe his morals because he dated girls in the past and he was mean to him, or he's sexting them. That don't got nothing to do with his policies. I'm talking about policies. That man's personal life and his wife, that's between them. That's between them. But, again, like people buy into this like stupidity and they lose the whole point of government. The whole purpose of having representation is to get rights, resources, and safety for the people. That's all we should be asking from our government. We need resources. We need rights to help us achieve a better life because you know what? It's not like they doing it out of the kindness of their hearts. I mean, we pay for this, don't we? We pay federal taxes. We pay state taxes. Exactly. We pay into this stuff. So it's not like it's free.
No, absolutely not. I mean, that's the main part of it is that, we're paying for all of these things. And a lot of these things we don't want, like wars. Number one, we don't want that. And yet we have time, we have the time, resources, and money for that. But we don't have the time, resources, and money for things that are necessary, like people to be able to eat and have housing in this country. That's something that we still haven't gotten to. We still haven't gotten to the bottom line of why we can't do these things. Why can't we fund these things in this country? Why must the billionaires be so greedy? And with the new top trillionaire sitting at the top of the list, as we've said before here on the Grown Man Podcast, the richest man in the world starving the poorest children in the world. It's something that continues to happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's just beyond ridiculous, but again, it's like, too many people are like stuck in their ways, and then you have like the non-voters, the people that like chooses the couch and all that kind of stuff, and decide like not to vote at all. And it's not like I want to sit there like beat up on them folks, because I know we have done it before in the past or whatever. But I heard somebody who had made a pretty good point. A guy that's running for, matter of fact, the guy we had played a video, I think, on the Grown Man Podcast 3 weeks ago, out there in Louisiana. He was the one that like was wearing the red hat that said like Donald Trump was wrong about everybody. He had brought up a good point. Like, you got like a lot of those people sitting on the couch and not participating in the voting process or anything like that, because a lot of people do feel that y'all not talking to us. As y'all not coming out, y'all not talking to us. So it's like, we just gonna take our chances because we ain't gonna be able to make a difference, or we're not gonna see change anyway. So, whatever happens gonna happen, like let it be. And that's a lot of those Gen Xers and Yers and Zers and all those, like, younger folks and like, minorities and whatever you want to call them and stuff. Those what like a lot of them people feel, because y'all not coming to us, y'all not, politicians not, like, what I'm saying, talk to us. I mean, again, I spoke about it before, when they talk about the working class, and they usually talking about, like, what I'm saying, like, white people that works a job. They talk about they talk to the, like, suburban people and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you gotta, like, what I'm saying, talk to the people about their issues and what they have going on and what they're struggling with. And, too many of the Democrats do not speak to the needs. They speak in broad, and they speak in all these nice and fancy, very elegant and beautiful language. But sometimes you gotta make it plain for folks. You gotta put it where the ghost can get it. Make it plain. What I'm saying? Be real about what you're saying. And what I'm saying? Don't feed us a script. And you will get more people to turn up. Again, like when Obama ran and stuff, a lot of people turned out because, yes, it was a historical thing, because a lot of people didn't believe that you would see a black man in the White House ever. I didn't think so in my lifetime. Most people didn't, because we was always taught to believe that wasn't our role. That's not, what we, we taught to dance and play some ball and laugh and joke, that's just what it was. But you guys, like, speak to the people and like, what I'm saying, hear them out when they express themselves about these issues and about sending money to war. Like you said, we spent nearly $1 trillion on this war already. Just think about where that money could have went towards these communities. I mean, what if we would have got just a fraction of that money put into the south side of Chicago? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. You speaking the truth, because there are so many needs here in this country, and yet we're over there. And even if you thought, like we talked about just earlier, even if you thought if it was for oil reserves or for them not to have nuclear weapons, all of these things in between, things over here are well worth more fighting for than that. Because the Strait of Hormuz, it's one of those deals where it was wide open. Obama and his administration, with John Kerry doing the negotiating, they had the deal in place. But Felon 47 tore it up because of his jealousy. He couldn't stand the fact that a black man was able to do the things that he could only dream about doing, having decorum and showing dignity and talking to foreign leaders in a way where it's like acceptable, instead of coming at them with nonsense where we're going to just keep dropping bombs and Iran will keep on taking them. We lost this war, just like we lost the Vietnam War. Same thing. A lot of unfortunate casualties in the Vietnam War, a lot of unfortunate casualties in this war, not on that scale, but any life lost in a war or conflict is not a good deal. I don't care what it is. This was not worth it.
No, it wasn't, man. Yeah, you talk about life, a loss of lives and stuff like that, and like even for the ones who didn't lose their life or was like, you know what I'm saying, wounded, and they came back and like, you know, they come back a different person. Once you go out there and you get in that whole situation out there in Vietnam, you talk about being out in them jungles and seeing all those like dead body, nothing but corpse around and going through all of that, then coming back home and stuff. You're not the same person. And this was doing in the 70s and the early 80s, before we had like the advanced technologies or treatments for like a lot of this stuff. Think about all the like, you know, PTSD people went through and becoming paranoid and bipolar and all these issues, and then they family gotta endure that. You know what I'm saying? They can't love their woman the same way. They can't love their kids the same way. They can't. I mean, all this. I mean, you know, and this is what the government does. They so nonchalant about it. They good with like, yeah, you know, sending other people kids out there. Send your kids out there. Go out there. I mean, I always say like with the president that calls himself the commander in chief. If the president is the commander in chief, and when there's conflicts that's going on, and you feel the need that you got to be out there bombing and stuff, shouldn't you be out there with your shoulder, with your soldiers, Mr. Commander in Chief? If there's a war about to break out or whatever, you should be out there too. Should be out there too. But it's a mess.
Yeah, absolutely it should. But it's one of them situations that we're going to continue to monitor here on the Grown Men Podcast, because we know that this is a bad deal for the citizens here of the United States. And it's not going to get any better in the coming months, because it's just going to be one of these situations that is going to continue to spiral out of control because the leadership at the top is so ineffective. Another topic I wanted to talk about, Mark, was the Carmelo Anthony case. We already know the verdict is in. He's supposed to serve 35 years in prison for defending himself once again. And as I'm advocating at the top of this, what I'm saying, nobody should lose a child. Nobody. However, if your child is out here bullying anyone else, there is a chance that something like this can happen. And there are a lot of different things that has come up since this verdict, Mark. A lot of people talk in different ways, but what have you heard, and what do you think about the whole situation?
Yeah, I've been listening to a whole lot of things. I mean, well, let me just start off with the last question you asked, what I think about it. I mean, I think, you know, it's exactly what it was. I mean, like this is a black teenager who murdered a white teenager. And this was in the state of Texas. I'm trying to recall what part of Texas this was, but from what I know, from what I heard, this damn sure wasn't in the Houston area, or like in Dallas County out there, nothing like that, where you have some black folks. This was that Bible Belt, like, you know, hardcore white part of Texas that this happened, and that's where the venue was held, in the whitest district, with a jury that was pretty much majority white, but nobody was black on that jury. That I do know of for sure.
Exactly.
So yeah, you got exactly the like outcome that you wanted, that you was gonna like get with this. I always knew he was gonna be found guilty, absolutely. And on top of that, what I did learn is that like his defense was weak, and it's kind of on Carmelo Anthony's parents. I'm gonna call them out just a little bit, and I'm not trying to be mean about it, but it's just as a like as a strategy measure. They went with a defense lawyer that was from that town, from that area, right? This was a white guy.
Right.
They had an opportunity to go with somebody else that would have been kind of like, it's kind of like when you go see a doctor, you kind of want to see, like, what I'm saying, like a black doctor, because you feel that black doctor can, like, understand you more as a black man. Like, you could like describe, or like a black male doctor, whatever, when you have problems, stuff. That same thing with like a legal defense is like, you got to understand, you know, a black man better, or you know what? Let me not even say it that way, because like, because there's plenty other, like, non-black lawyers or whatever. But this particular lawyer, is a lot of things that he didn't do. Like a lot of people said that, like, Carmelo should have took the stand, but you don't have to. And sometimes, like, that could be helpful, but it's also gonna open you up to be cross-examined by the defense, and they're gonna sit there and they're gonna get on, put you on that witness stand, and they're gonna grill you hard and all that kind of stuff. But it's a lot of things, like, where was Carmelo's witnesses? Why wouldn't, like, what I'm saying, more people, more teachers and things like that asked to come up to speak on his behalf? Because Carmelo Anthony, it wasn't just like he was no, like, straight up, like, lost soul out there, no, like, Duggish kid. This kid was he was a good student. He was on the track. He was the captain of the track team. He had he had good grades. He had a future. He had prospects. He was working 2 jobs. So, and he was charged with first degree murder. And I understand, like, the state of Texas, they do their murder charges different and stuff like that. Other states have, like, voluntary manslaughter, involuntary manslaughter, first degree murder, second, all that kind of stuff. But from what I understand, Carmelo Anthony was charged with first degree murder, which, like, usually in those cases, that means that it was premeditated. Like, he planned to kill, gosh, I forget his name now. His name slipped my mind, but the kid that got murdered, as if Carmelo had planned to do that, and that was not the case. And yes, he had a knife in his bag, and he carries a knife in his bag. And for, like, anyone like you and I, we can understand why. Like, a lot of people carry weapons as a teenager when when you feel that, you need safety, because you're walking in these streets, you're going in these areas, and you don't know what's going to happen. So, yes, that's not so uncommon for a kid to carry a weapon. You know what I mean? So, yes. So, I mean, it was a lot wrong with the defense of that, but the good news is that it's going to be appealed. They got the right to do that. And I'm hoping that, like, what I'm saying, it does get, like, overturned. I mean, at least with the sentencing, because he was sentenced for 35 years. And from what I heard, like, it was only like one stab wound. He only stabbed him once.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like, if you plan to, like, murder somebody, like, usually people would like kind of like go like Michael Myers on a person if you really want to murder, because you want to make sure that they're gone, right? This was one self-defense stab.
Only thing he was trying to do was get them off of him. That was his main thing, get them off of him. From what was being said, he was trying to get all of those guys off of him, and he was the one that got stabbed. And that's the thing. If that would have been the other way around, if it was 4 or 5 black guys and white guy was getting himself beat down, and he would have stabbed somebody, he'd be at home right now continuing his studies and everything else that he's going to do with his life. We've seen this act before. We know what it's about.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, we've seen it the other way around, just like, recently, like a lot of times. I mean, but, like, what I'm saying, like, the bottom line is, I mean, once again, like, stand your ground. Do not count for us because it's not our ground. That's just how people feel about it. And
Exactly.
until we actually, like, you know what I'm saying, stop like accepting these things. I mean, the reason why they get away with these laws and all that kind of stuff, what they do is because we tolerate it way too much. We tolerate way too much. And I just want to go back to the sentencing real quick. 35 years. 35 years. And Carmelo
Yeah,
Anthony,
yeah,
committed this murder when he was 17 years old, which means he was adolescent. And like many people still argue that your brain is not fully developed or fully matured until like you at least 26 years old anyway. So right now, Carmelo Anthony, I believe he
exactly.
just turned 19. So basically what I'm saying is,
Hmm.
yeah, he's still a child. In very much ways, he's still a child. You give him 35 years, yet the grown female officer that walked into an apartment thinking that it was her apartment, she was confused and she shot the black man eating ice cream. Remember that story about a few years back?
Yeah,
She shot him multiple times, a
yeah.
professional law enforcement officer, and she was sentenced to 10 years, and she's probably going to get out in 6 years. The man, the coward that murdered
Exactly.
George
Exactly.
Floyd with his knee on the back of his neck, Derek Chauvin, that coward piece of trash, who they just prayed and gave a moment of silence for a couple weeks ago or whatever. He received, what was it, 22 years, and he'll probably get out in about 15 years. So you get what I'm saying? Like, these are
Exactly.
professional law enforcement, grown people that knows better, that know the law, that know better, and
Hmm.
that is responsible for their duties as law enforcement to serve and protect the community and to make these careless mistakes like this, as when you take human life that you can never bring that life back. I mean, these people receive far less time than Carmelo Anthony. And if he serves that whole 35 years, he's gonna be well off into his 40s. By the time he get no, oh nay, he'll be well off into his 50s. Almost about time he gets out, and he's gonna be a completely changed individual.
Yeah, you're absolutely right on that, Mark. To me, it was unfair sentencing, but this is what we get. Until we learn to band together and fight these things, we're going to continue to get the same thing because most of us are too busy with our everyday lives to think about these issues. Because, as you and I talked about before, if it's not happening to us, it really doesn't matter. That's our mentality, unfortunately.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, and I mean, and that's again, I mean, just like I said, I mean, we tolerate this stuff. I mean, the woman again that killed the man in like his whole apartment. He was just eating ice cream on like his couch in his apartment, and you know what I'm saying. And the police officer. Forgive me, y'all, for not having the names in front of me and stuff, but yeah, I mean, this like police woman shot him to death, and then like she cried in court, and guess what? The black judge hugged her, showing compassion and all that kind of stuff. And we talked about George Floyd, them brothers and stuff, like being like, showing compassion towards the killers and all this. I mean, like we do that a lot, as black people, we do that a lot. We like, because we are like, by nature, like compassionate people, believe it or not. I mean, because if you listen to like, what I'm saying, whiteness news media and all that kind of stuff, they tell us that we're all savages and we all like killing each other. Oh, look at those thugs in the street of Chicago and they doing black on black crime, this and that and whatever, whatever. But the whole point is that we're very compassionate and we're very forgiving and understanding to like, other people more so than ourselves, because a lot of that stuff is like, still caught up in the psyche from like chattel slavery, when we was taught that white life is more violent and we're not worthy of their grace most of the times, and we got to bow and bend ourselves and break ourselves to please whiteness and all of that stuff, and it comes back and hunts us all of the time, each and every single time. They have no compassion for our kids, they have no compassion for our communities or anything of that nature. So, you know again with this, like, Carmelo Anthony, and like you said, like no parent should have to bury their child. And this is a lesson for, like, on both sides, when it's like, when you're for, like, the young folks in particular of all races. I mean, when you're in a situation and stuff like that, I mean, you got to try to make smarter choices not to put yourself in that situation. And it's like, I don't know, because it's complicated, because it's not, I mean, it's very easy to sit there and say, like, oh, just walk away, or go tell somebody, or go call the police. Because a lot of times, like, as a black kid and stuff, I mean, calling police ain't gonna do you no good, because they're not gonna help. I mean, a lot of times.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I like, hate to say that. I mean, there are a few good police out there that will do some good, but, like, what I'm saying, chances are you're gonna get, what I'm saying, like the crappy ones that's not gonna care, that's gonna try to, like, turn it and spin it on you. So it's like, yeah, I mean, like Carmelo, he felt he had to protect himself because he was bullied by these kids. I believe he was jumped before. It was some kind of altercation. But yeah, it's a thing where it's like, you want to be aware of your surroundings and try to avoid putting yourself in a situation that might end out that might end up badly.
Yeah, it's one of them situations, Mark, where it's unfortunate. As I said at the top of what we were saying, no loss of life is good, and under no circumstance. I don't condone murder. I don't condone any of that. But I also felt that this kid should have been shown a little bit of grace. Let him make amends. But going to prison, I just thought for that period of time is a little steep. If you want to say 10 years and he do like 8, I would have been fine with that because of the circumstances. And as you pointed out, the defense didn't put up a big, good defense as well. So, it's one of them situations where it's unfortunate that it happened. And I hope that this young man can recover and find redemption where he can have some kind of life when he gets back outside, in the rest of the world. But we're going to move on to another thing I wanted to talk about, Mark, before we close it up. I wanted to talk about the Chicago Bulls. We didn't get a chance to speak on it on the passing of Stacey King. But, Stacey King was a big part of what was going on in Chicago when the Bulls were winning championships in the early 90s. He was part of that team, the first three-peat team. And, a lot of people were shocked and they were, they couldn't believe it, and a lot of fans hurt by it. But what are your memories of Stacey King?
Well, they had his services today, or I believe it was today or yesterday. But I mean, I know I was seeing, like, video. Yeah.
It might have been days ago, according to our recording, but yeah.
Yeah, it was good to see, like, what I'm saying, like, a lot of the guys, old teammates like Bill Cartwright and stuff. He was telling a story.
Yeah, it was funny because Cartwright was the one who Stacey King always imitated, right?
Yeah.
He always imitated Bill Cartwright because that's what everybody said. He was the jokester, so he would imitate all the guys on the team, and he'd always do Cartwright. And that's the thing that Cartwright was talking about, in some of his discussions about Stacey.
Yes. He brought that up, and I was like listening to that, and it brought a smile on my face because it took me back to, like, because I remember seeing that on, like, one sports news report or whatever, when this was probably had to be 92, maybe 93, when Stacey King was, like, teasing Cartwright or whatever, like, he was, like, talking like him and all that, and Cartwright came behind him, threw a towel on his face, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I mean, that just brought me back to that moment. But yeah, I mean, Stacey King, like, I mean, he was a great high school player, great college player, a great storyteller. He was part. He played his role in the first three-peat of the Chicago Bulls. I mean, was he a superstar NBA player. No, far from it. But he knew his role. I mean, and those was back in the days where like players played their role. I mean, like some of them do now. But it just used to be so different back then. I mean, he came off the bench and he did what was asked for him to do, to be that big body to like, what I'm saying, help defend against the likes of Patrick Ewing them back in the day and Alonzo Mourning and you know what I'm saying, like a lot of those guys. But then off the court and going into like the broadcast booth, which many of us was like reintroduced to Stacy,
Right,
and
right.
like a lot of the younger generations pretty much just probably know him just for being the voice of the Chicago Bulls, and I mean taking over after the great
Give me
Johnny Red Kerr and them and all that. Give me the hot sauce, put you in the spin cycle. I mean, he had all the catchphrases. He was a key he was a key component of making the young Derrick Rose very famous and stuff. Like, get up, get out the way. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he put him over. Jimmy Buckets, Jimmy G Buckets. I mean, he had he was so quick with it. And he was a student of the game. He still loved the game of professional basketball. He still loved sports, and he had that energy that brought you into the game. Even when the Bulls was losing and struggling and doing terrible, like, his voice still, what I'm saying, gave the game some life. Still gave some, like, entertainment. And like he kept it real. He didn't sit there and just like sugarcoat or like made like everything that the Bulls was doing was great. No, he told it the way it was. At least from his perspective. So, he was a great guy. He's very funny, artistic, just like, I mean, just amazing, man. It was sad to hear what happened to him because I read stories that he had failed in his home. He may have fallen down some steps, kind of like maybe it was kind of similar towards the late great Bobby Eaton situation of the Midnight Express. Corny's man, when, I mean, and that's like I said, those like accidents are very unfortunate, especially as we're getting older, and things. It was a blow, but his memories will definitely live on. And like I say, he was extremely funny, and and just a great man. Like me and Mac always talk about, like we used to always say, like, and that's one of the dudes that we would like to, like, what I'm saying, hang out with, go to a bar or something, shoot some pool with, because he's gonna make you laugh. He's gonna be he just had good energy, a great vibe. Yeah, it's a very, very, very special part of the Chicago Bulls organization.
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. 100%. I mean, when you think of Chicago Bulls as of late, you thought about Stacey King because you knew that he was gonna bring it. He brought it every night to the broadcast, and he's one of those guys where he's gonna be missed, and those gonna be some big shoes to fill. Whoever decides to step in that role, boy, they're gonna have to some big shoes to fill. Of course, the Bulls with the big news as well, hiring their new coach Tiago Splitter,
Yeah.
and this guy coming in and he's going to be tall as some of the players. And they say he did a great job out there in Portland, got Portland to the playoffs when no one thought Portland was going to make the playoffs because the talent wasn't there. But apparently, the Graham and the Bulls think that he's the guy to lead the Bulls to the next level.
Yes, yes, yes. I seen that yesterday, and all I can say is like we'll see what happens. I mean, good, because I haven't followed him that much as far as his coaching. I mean, I know him as a player. I mean, I knew he was a pretty decent player, whatever like that. And today's lead in today's game, I mean, it'd be hard for me to watch a lot of these. I mean, I am not into basketball at all like I used to. We talked about this before, and I would like to get back into it and because sometimes he have moments like I'm not gonna lie to you, like with the I mean, although I am nowhere near Knicks fan, I was I was somewhat glad to see him win. And I mean, just to like, just the whole energy of the moment, I guess that was something that I could appreciate, and I hope it, starts uh, a new era, a new chapter into the league, as far as like, kind of going back to the way it used to be, having good rivalries, having guys stick with a team for more than like 3 or 4 years. I mean, it's a lot of that stuff that pretty much killed it for me. And of course, the like, protection of the superstars and the flopping and everybody want to shoot threes and all that kind of stuff. Cause I did like, look at some of those Knicks Spurs game and stuff like that. Those some pretty good games. Spurs showed how young and inexperienced that they are, and they are a young team. But I would say fire the coach. The coach got to go, if I'm being honest. That was some bad coach.
Yeah, that's what everybody's saying, that was bad coaching. But look, you got to give hats off to the Knicks, and you got to give it to the local guy, Jalen Brunson, because he refused to lose. That's something that you didn't see, hardly in these eras where a lot of teams get down, they be like, oh well, we lost this game. But he refused to let the Knicks lose, and he put them on his back, and he got them over the hump every time.
He reminded me of a young Derrick Rose.
Yeah, that's absolutely. He refused to lose, and everybody, the betting money was on the Spurs. At least that's what I said, because I thought the Spurs would win this series hand down. I agree. I was completely 100% wrong in my assessment of that, because I did not count the spirit of Brunson doing what he did. I didn't think that he would be able to do it, but he did it. Hats off to him. He was the MVP of the NBA Finals. Local Chicago product. Glad to see him get that championship, even if it is with the Knicks. Don't make a difference to me.
And I'm happy for Spike Lee too. Because Spike, Spike. He waited his whole life for this, man. Like at least, he used to look bad on so many occasions.
At least he was born when they won the last championship. A lot of people weren't. The last time the Knicks won an NBA title, I was 3 months from getting ready to be born. So it's one of those situations where it's been a while. And yes, Willis Reed. That's all they had was Willis Reed, because every year Michael would break their heart.
Yes, sir. Patrick Ewing and stuff. I feel. I was happy for him and stuff. I mean, he still is ugly. I mean, he still, he's very respected player.
You see how he had that trophy, and they was like, "Yeah, you act like you won it. We won it."
That's exactly what I was thinking about. That put me in mind of that. Like, yeah, oh no, and it's like, for him, and like I said, and that's what I mean, G. Like, I give it up for like those guys and stuff, him and Charles Barkley and Karl Malone and those guys back in the day that played their asses off. They bought it every night, and they stayed committed to their team, to their organization, to the franchise. They put it all on the line, and that's what it was all about. And I mean Reggie Miller, yeah. I mean the list goes on and on as far as like the non-champions and stuff that went out there, but just that whole late '80s, throughout the '90s, early to mid '90s, all before the stupid shutdown and stuff. I mean, that's the era of basketball to me that was still real. I mean, the 2000s was good too. I'm not gonna sit there like discredit them, but in the 2000s, that's when you start to see the shift. Right. I'm just saying, as far as the whole league, when you start to see the shift of guys wanting to play with their friends, or guys like the man, and people stayed committed to those teams, and they was committed to those rivalries, and nobody wanted to be your friend until the season was over with. Jordan and Ewing and Barkley and stuff, those was all good friends. They was the best of friends and all that kind of stuff. Not doing the regular season, not doing playoff time, not on that court.
Not during
Jordan wasn't gonna give you nothing.
Not on that. He wasn't giving you jack.
He ain't care, man. He ain't care how hard you work.
Get it. Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. Absolutely, Mark. So, yeah, hats off to the Knicks and rest in power to Stacey King, because, you have to honor that. And, it's just one of those things where, we want to see what's going to happen in the future with the Bulls. We'll check back in on them, when the time comes. But, it was good that the people paid tribute to Stacey King, because he deserved it. And well deserved for the Knicks, and they had their big parade, and Mondami did it big for them in New York. So hats off to them as well for winning the NBA title. Well, Mark, what's your final thoughts as we close up here on the Grown Men Podcast?
My final thoughts is I hope everybody I hope everybody be as safe as they can be. Recognize that life is short. Like we just got done talking about Stacey King, and Stacey King was not an old man when he passed, and things can happen at any moment. Like, we're never prepared for it. So try to enjoy life as much as you can, to be smart, to be vigilant, and also enjoy these holidays that's coming up. This holiday we had spoke earlier about Juneteenth, and other than just having a big cookout and drinking some beers and maybe smoking a little herb, if that's what you do, whatever you do and want to have fun, all that, take time to reflect on the people that's no longer here, or the people that sacrifice everything for you and I to be sitting up here doing this podcast, and the people that's listening to us, and everybody that's doing anything in this country. It was a lot of sacrifice by African people. You know what I mean? We should reflect daily on our African heritage, and the truth of the matter is that we don't do it enough. We was programmed and taught not to honor that, and taught to believe that's nothing of value. Don't take time in that. But if we go back and remember who and what we are, it would do dividends for our lives moving forward. And steady ride.
Yeah, Mark, you said more than a mouthful on that, because that's exactly my sentiments. And I want to add to that as we get to this holiday weekend, because that also includes Father's Day. So to all the fathers out there grinding, doing whatever you can for your family, happy Father's Day to you all, because you work hard as well. So as we celebrate Juneteenth and Father's Day, let's reflect on our African heritage. Let's reflect on the things that we are doing right now in the community with the Obama Center and everything that goes along with that. And let's strive to be better every day. Each and every day we do something that can make us better than the day we were before. Well, folks, I'm glad that you came in to check us out here on the Grown Men Podcast. New format, we switching it up. We're going to do some big things coming to the Grown Men Podcast. Head on over to WeRiseNation.com. See all the things we got going on over there, different things, different blogs, topics, music as well. And go over to YouTube and check out the Grown Men Podcast. Check out some of our clips. We're going to be updating and adding more clips, so bear with us. We're doing some things behind the scenes. We're moving and shaking and doing the best we can to bring you, the listeners, because that's what's important. You want our takes, and we're giving them to you here on the Grown Man Podcast. So until next time, from my brother Mark, I am the host, BAN, and we will talk to you soon.